Hello, and welcome to today's AAIS webinar. I'm John Caduce, Vice President of Products at AAIS. Today, we will be looking at one of the biggest roadblocks that carriers encounter when trying to achieve speed to market, which is the ability to easily and efficiently adopt new or update existing products. I'm joined by an expert team of AAIS colleagues, including Manager of Product Operations, Sheila Morris, Senior Product Development Specialist, excuse me, Jeff Holloway, and Technical Business Analyst, Jason Buchek. Together, they will walk you through how the AAIS Speed to Market Toolkit, also known as S2M, aims to ease the implementation of manual rules and rating information into a company's policy administration system. Our S2M tools are ever evolving and focused on alleviating the headache and stress of migrating to new and updating programs in current and new jurisdictions. With that, let's kick things off with our first portion of the presentation. Jason, take it away, please.
Thanks, John, and thanks to all of our community for joining us today. I want to begin first talking about some of the exciting tools that we're creating in our S2M Toolkit. The first one, which I'm going to show a quick demo of, is our product models, which are going to be available in mind maps, which are human readable content, and then as technical specifications, which are meant to be read by machines, like a programming language, essentially. And then the rating and data tables, which will be demoed by Jeff, and the rating examples, which Sheila will show you a demo of if you've never seen them in the past. So the first question that we might ask ourselves is, what is the new S2M Toolkit product model, right? What does it do? Who can it help? And then, all this kind of question about that. So what it is it's an iterable standard, which means it's a changing standard that we're going to be changing over time through the feedback that you guys give us, that allows us to represent our products for the community. So our community is built on vendors, partners, carriers, everybody, right? And they all might need something different. So we want to give you the content of all of our products and how to implement our products in the most digestible ways. And we also want to make sure that it's, read by humans. That's why we built the mind maps, but then maybe even later to do one-click implementations with policy admin systems. So, that's awesome, but what is that, right? I mean, like, what does that mean? Well, simply, we're trying to define a standard, a schema, as we can call it, that it can be used as a translation language between the business people, so the underwriters, the product development specialists at the carrier side, and then the internal developers at the carrier side, or the SI partners, or anybody at the policy admin system that might be doing an implementation for you. The next thing is, the product models and the data within, they can be viewed in Freeplane. So we have an application that we chose called Freeplane, which is an open source tool, and it's freely accessible. It's available on Linux, Windows, Mac OS, so it can be broadly distributed to our entire community, no matter what computer you're using on. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the demo, and you guys can go ahead and see some of the things we've been doing. The first thing we can talk about here is it's very approachable, right? This is Freeplane. It looks virtually the exact same no matter what operating system you're using it on, but it's really easy to navigate as a mind map. And this is our part of our human readable content. You can see as we click through this that all information as we go beyond is all expressible as its own individual node. So a node being one of these little items right here, and that means something. And it's great because it can be collapsible, like mind maps, the whole mind map technology. You can put a ton of data, which you will need to have when you're doing an implementation, but you can then condense it or show it depending on what conversation you're trying to have and who you're trying to talk to. Another great thing about Freeplane is A, it's open source, so it's totally free. But then B, all of these icons and then the automation that create these icons and when they show up, and all the automation for the styling that we choose, all that stuff can be handed over. It's all a part of the map itself. So whenever you take that file, you're able to open up that file, and then you can then be sure that somebody that you're talking to, either on the IT side over at the AAIS side, we're looking at the exact same thing you're looking at, and it's represented in the exact same way. And another fantastic piece is that Freeplane, because it's just essentially XML under the hood, all the data is able to be queried. So it's kind of like its own little database, and you can query all the information that's inside of it. And another great piece is we're hoping that this is going to be a tool and a schema that is available to all of our community in the sense that you guys can adopt it yourself. So what we're hoping on is you might have customizations on top of our products when you did an implementation, and then you can make that customization documented inside of FreePlane. Then you could share back to us the customization that you make if you want us to understand something that you're talking about. Or if you're working with our partners like GhostDraft, you can then express to them in the exact same way that we've already set up some of the previous documentation. So looking at this, we're going to see, what information is available. Right now, you just see a whole bunch of these nodes, but you probably see this floating thing popping up, which is like the little modal details showing cardinality rules and, technical names like that. And you can kind of see some stuff. But one thing that you can definitely see is its product structure. So you can just tell by looking at this that, and most likely if you write the Bailey's form, you know that it needs a catastrophe limit. A catastrophe limit is needed because you take the coverage form IM 7550 and it has a coverage schedule of 7555. So the structure of the entire application is inherently visual in this way. You got a parent-child relationship that that catastrophe is located below the coverage form, and that's below the product called Bailey's coverage. Same thing as well. These are all the optional endorsements, and then you have to have a location that you're putting your risk on. So, like the dry cleaner business needs to be below the location, and any one of these individual optional endorsements that may come with the Inland Marine Guide program, these are all available to you as well. And then they're all fully defined with all of their nodes that they require down below. Form inference rules. So items like this right here, we're telling you that form IM 7561 for the fur garment needs to be listed on. If you take the fur garment coverage, you need to bring in the form IM 7561. And then the product to form content mapping, right? So if we look up here, this schedule of coverages, if we come here to the right, this schedule of coverages has a lot of fields that need to be implemented into your policy admin system. So if we open this up, these are all the individual pieces of data that you need to bring on. So whether you're custom coding your own forms or you're working with partners like GhostDraft, they need to code all of these forms from your policy admin system and then make them print either on a deck page or on the form itself. And this, well, we'll able to tell you. So like a premises number, we can even show things like the display name for premises number. Plus, we can also show where in the product model itself that this data is supposed to come from. So if you see here, prem num, that's a pretty easy case that everybody knows this means premises number. But somewhere in this model, that piece of data exists. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and enable every one of you guys to then be able to go ahead and know that's exactly where to go. And that's why that query-like language is fantastic. Other things like technical name, data type, all that kind of stuff, and then sourcing information like right here allows you then to look at our product model, and then you can say, why are they bringing this into the mind map? Why is it important? Well, you can go read the schedule of coverage then and go see that piece of data and go read exactly why we think that's there and why we're bringing it on. Again, this is the human readable version, but this is also going to be available in JSON soon. And with JSON, if all this information is available and it's all being consistently built, then all the policy admin systems that we work with hopefully will have some type of one-click implementation, which will then, lower the total cost of ownership. Hopefully, it will lower the new implementation. It'll allow new experimental ways of going ahead and making it so if you want to try Inland Marine Guide and you don't have it already, you can implement Inland Marine Guide really quickly. But then hopefully also long-term lower total cost of ownership, because as we bring in things like eligibility rules, underwriting rules, rating algorithms, those things can then also be built into the program model, product model itself. But then also, if you're working with vendors, hopefully they're able to map. So any future updates, you can then see exactly what changed in our bulletin process, and then you'll be able to keep up to date with what the most current product is. Now, before I pass it off to Jeff, I want to discuss the rating of the data tables. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, this generally, when we talk about this, has a lot of questions that come around it. So please feel free to send your question on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And I'm going to pass it along to Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And, Jason, the product model and the mind map are definitely a more complicated or involved tool that we're providing. What I'm going to be talking about, which is the rating and data tables, are, I would say, low-hanging fruit, but I would also say it's something that we're doing that can really speed up your implementation. And I think everybody knows, whether you're with a service provider or if you're with a member company, one of the challenges is getting the rating information out of the manual and into the policy admin system or the rating engine. And that can be, you can be pulling from Word, might be pulling from Excel or Adobe. So what we're trying to do is we put this, the rating information as well as data into Excel that you can then download into your system. And so it should make it faster, quicker, and it's accurate as well. It's gone through multiple steps internally here at AAIS to validate the rating information. So the first thing I'm showing here is a rating table specifically for loss costs, and it's for homeowners by peril. It's a scheduled motorized golf cart coverage. And the jurisdiction at the top that you see is multi-state, and there's some state exceptions below for Connecticut and Virginia. And we can handle the state exceptions and that differ. The variables are always defined. The variable values may be different. For example, if Virginia, if this was Rule 9.13, we could put that in there and it doesn't create a problem. I could tell you where it's different. It's not in the rating. It's not in the actual loss cost that's charged. It's just that Connecticut, for example, does not offer an HO1. We're not allowed to provide an HO001 in that state. And Virginia has their own policy or base form number schema. So we can see with the rating table, whether you're programming for Illinois or Indiana or Connecticut or Virginia, it's going to match up with what you're seeing in the manual. So that's the first one, which is loss costs. I'm going to switch over now to deductibles, but this is a factor rating table. And you can see that this is for the first 5 states for personal auto that have been filed and approved. And if you need to know more about the personal auto program, please reach out and let us know. But right here, you can see that we're talking about collision coverage deductible factors, the rule that applies, and then the coverage is repeated, and the deductible value, either 100, 250, 500,000, and then the factor that applies. And again, you may see that there's some similarity between the factors, but right away we can see for Missouri, the factor that's for 100 is 1.31, whereas for Arkansas, it's 1.38. So again, it gives you that opportunity to see what's different and whether what you're providing or what you're implementing for a particular state. And then last but not least, and this is definitely a more involved, this is a data table. So this includes all the territorial definition assignments for earthquake. And there's roughly, and I'll scan down here quickly, there's 38,000 rows. So if you were to implement this, each state, by the way, I should mention, this is for BOP. If you were to input this for each state, it would be quite a lot of work, but we've done this for you. And so you could tell from the first line, this is Alaska, and it's not defined by the county that the risk is located or the city. Both of those are not applicable, but it's defined by the zip code, and it has a variable value of 1, meaning that's the territory or the rating zone assignment. So again, we can also do this, or we have done this for personal auto rating symbols as well. And again, we feel like it's not as involved, but it's definitely something that could speed up the process.
Jeff, if I can kind of step in.
Yeah.
We do have a couple. I was just going to say 2 questions already out there, and then a third one popped in.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and take it. The first one that I'm going to pick is actually the second one on the list. But since you were just talking about structure and everything we've got here, why don't you take this one? In what formats are the rating and data tables provided?
Right. So as mentioned, they are in Excel, but we can also provide them in JSON as well.
Okay. That was a simple question.
Yep.
All right. So first question that we got was, why were there more than one premises not listed in the Bailey's schedule form?
Yeah, I can definitely take that one. So Roger, if you know the IM 7555, the main first section is where you actually list your schedule of coverages. So all the different locations that you have. And then the second and third instance of that, one is talking about the processing coverage, and then one is talking about the storage coverage. So what I wanted to express there was that those three different fields should be considered different because you may have multiple locations where only one has processing coverage and one has storage location. And so when you're talking to your partners like GhostDraft, you could then say, hey, this is this field that can iterate, and then these are these fields. And then we use the cardinality rules inside the product model to say if it's, like one's required up to an infinite number, that kind of thing.
All right, cool. One more out there. Do you have the calculations that the rates and factors go into defined in Excel or some other way as well?
Yes, we do. And that's a great question because it leads right into what Sheila's going to talk about, which is the rating examples.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess, Sheila, I guess that's a handoff to you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. So yes, I am going to talk a little bit about the rating examples in the Speed to Market Toolkit. These rating examples are intended to provide a step-by-step overview of basic premium calculations using sample rating information from a typical countrywide risk. I am showing a split screen of the homeowners by peril rating example on the left and the calculation of premium rule, which is Rule 5.1 from the homeowners by peril multi-state manual on the right. The rating example starts by outlining the coverages selected and the limits for this example. And then the example goes on and follows on a step-by-step basis, leveraging the sample rating information. And the goal is to show how the rating information is applied and the resulting calculation for each step. So step 1, for instance, shows how to determine the basic premium for each peril. Step 1A, we identify the applicable rating zone assignments, the base amounts, and the relativities. And then for steps 1B through 1F, we take the base amount and multiply it by the various relativities, coming up with a step 1 result for each peril within the HOBP program. And then we continue on through the remaining steps of Rule 5.1, culminating, of course, in a total premium at the end of the example. AAIS intends to provide multi-state rating examples in this format for each product line.
So Sheila, I don't know if you noticed, but we have a closely related question. Are rating examples provided for just basic rating information calculations, or will rating examples also be developed for optional coverages with calculations that are more involved, such as earthquake rating?
Initially for the basic, but we do intend to extend that beyond for some things such as earthquake and other highly utilized optional coverages.
All right, fantastic.
Next, I'd like to talk about the speed to market tools. Okay, so in terms of speed to market, delivery of the speed to market tools, I'd like to start by reminding everyone that AAIS offers onboarding services to existing and new members. And these onboarding services aim to ensure the efficient implementation of our products. We utilize a consultative onboarding approach to provide tailored services to meet the unique needs of each of our members. We're happy to extend these onboarding services to our new S2M Toolkit. So specifically with respect to delivery of S2M tools, currently requests for STM tools should be directed to the AAIS onboarding team. Onboarding will determine what S2M tools are available by product and jurisdiction. From there, AAIS will share a statement of work addressing the scope and timeline. We will then deliver the appropriate S2M tools via a secure file sharing system. And after the tools are provided, we will be doing follow-ups with our members and their solution providers to determine some follow-ups and seek your feedback around the usefulness and value of these tools. In a future state, AAIS intends to provide the S2M tools via AAIS Direct. So that's hopefully coming soon. In terms of availability, AAIS continues to build out the speed to market tools for our commercial, inland marine, personal, farm, and our auto product suites. This slide depicts the, you move on to the current availability of this S2M tools by product line. Thank you. Mind maps are currently available for our commercial output program, our homeowners by peril program, personal auto, and the major inland marine guide classes. Rating and data tables are available for our business owners, commercial output, inland marine guide, and personal auto programs. Rating examples are available for our commercial output, homeowners by peril, inland marine guide major classes, and personal auto programs. So with that, I will pass the presentation back to Jeff to discuss some S2M feedback from members, as well as the versatility of the S2M toolkit.
Thank you, Sheila. This is our official launch, but we've been working with companies prior to this just to get some initial feedback to what we were developing. And so one of the items that we had developed was the BOP rating and data tables. And Tim Koppenhaber from Loudon reached out to us and said, we're getting ready to expand into that market. And is there anything you can give us that would be of a benefit? And so we were in a position at that time that we were wrapping up actually the rating and data tables for business owners. And so we were able to provide it. And Tim's feedback here is that the onboarding that Sheila just talked about was responsive. And then once it was passed downstream to to co-pilot Lindsay Brooks, the co-pilot working on the Bright Course system, you could see that she found the rating and data tables extremely beneficial. Joey Kenny at Innovative Holdings, we had provided copies of the homeowners by peril and personal auto mind maps, and they had we didn't catch them in time, but based off the feedback Joey provided, they could use the mind maps to validate what was implemented already for homeowners by peril. And as they get ready to expand that line of insurance into other states, they'll be able to use the mind map again to validate and to speed up that implementation process. So we're really pleased with the initial feedback. And we go to the next screen, I'm going to talk about how we want to continue to receive that feedback. As Jason mentioned earlier, existing tools are always being looked at to be improved, expanded upon, or possibly adapted. He talked about how the initial mind maps were created in XMind 8, and now they're being created in Freeplane for the benefit of our member companies and their IT partners. And in addition, we're also looking at any new tools can be added. So if you're in the process of trying to figure out how, if you're coming up against an obstacle and you think we can be of help, reach out to us. One of the initial items that we've received feedback on is on attributes associated with forms and endorsements. Something simple like, what is the effective and expiration dates of various editions of endorsements? So these are items that I wouldn't say are on the back burner, but they're being contemplated and we're looking for solutions. So any feedback you can give us would be of benefit. And of course, we're also, the onboarding unit, when we wrap up, we typically have a 3 to 6 month follow-up and we ask, how did it work? And feel free to let your onboarding group know as well how things went or if there's anything we could improve upon. So, and that wraps up the main presentation. So let me pass this back to John.
All right, thanks, Jeff. We now have some time left for Q&A. So we do have a question that came in, and I'll say Jeff kind of touched on this, but I don't know if Jason, you wanted to provide a little more color to this question. But I saw a previous version of the mind map created in XMind 8. Now I see the latest is developed in Freeplane. Is there a reason for the switch?
There is, yeah. So as we talked about, the first thing I said was this was a highly iterable, and Jeff just mentioned we're taking all of your guys' feedback into consideration. So XMind was fantastic for the human readable side, but it was never going to be able to give us a JSON and then have those two models essentially be built from one another. So there's not going to be like a JSON version and a human readable version that we're maintaining separately. The human readable version is going to come from the JSON version, which then means that the two models are the exact same model. So there's no disconnect between them ever. The other reason is we were just essentially making pseudocode inside of XMind and using the notes feature that somebody had to read and digest. In this way, we're able to transfer the data over. It's built in XML. very open source and very available. So the data is just non-binary format. If you guys get what that means, you can open it in a text editor and then you can see all the data. That is not necessarily true for Xmind. You'd have to work with the SDK and build an actual application to get the data from it. So we're intending on all feedback that we get from everybody. This was some of the original feedback we had gotten. They wished it was a little bit easier to read so they can parse through it. So we took into consideration, made the switch to a more robust tool.
All right, very good. Thank you. Question here, Jeff. I'll let you take a swing at this one. What's the timeline for farm owners?
Yeah. All right. So my understanding is farm owners is going through an update at this time. And with it going through the update, we want to let that update occur before we create the mind map. So as soon as the update's completed in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll be starting to work on the farm owner's mind map. I will say we do have rating and data tables that are underway that will not be impacted by the update. And I would hope that we're kind of targeting into the calendar year for those. So that's the update specifically for farm owners.
No, and that brings up a really good point. You know, what we're doing right now is we are creating these assets for products that we've got that are currently active. And as we do updates, as we do creation of new programs, the S2M assets are something that we intend to build right alongside the product as we are building it out. And in essence, you could really look at the overall definition of the product as changing. People traditionally think of it as policy forms, rules manual, loss cost, and then you kind of throw into that the S2M, those assets that give you an opportunity to get up and running much more quickly with it. We've got another question here that says, I'm interested in using these tools. How do I find out how to get onboarded?
Yeah. So you want to take this, Sheila?
Well, you can reach out to me. I manage the onboarding team. We'll be happy to assist. You can also reach out to your engagement manager, and they'll be sure to get things through to us so we can have that conversation and help onboard you. Anyone at AAIS will certainly get your message across, but onboarding or engagement teams are probably the most direct route.
All right. And while we've got a moment here waiting for the next question to come in, I'll say that, the tools that we're talking about, we've had a couple opportunities to demonstrate those to folks who participate in our product councils or some folks who were going through onboarding efforts at the time. And I want to touch on the product council aspect of that and just make sure everybody is aware that we do have product councils representing each one of our product suites. And if you are interested in participating in one of those councils, becoming a more engaged member of the community, if you will, we'd love to have you. So you can reach out to the product managers, you can reach out to the engagement manager that you work with, or feel free to work or reach directly out to me as well. Okay. Next up, is this something all members can utilize, or is it an add-on cost?
There is no additional cost for this. It becomes part of your membership with AAIS, so there is no additional cost. It's a benefit that we want to provide to our member companies to help them get out into the marketplace on a basically speed to market basis.
All right, and next up, homeowners. Is homeowners available? So what do we have available for homeowners, Jeff?
So we have the homeowners mind map, and we are also working on state exceptions for Florida. That piece has not yet fully been completed, but we do have the homeowners mind map, and that can be provided. And we also have the rating example, which Sheila just showed. And we are also working on a rating example for earthquake, which is a modeled optional coverage, and there's a lot of factors involved. And that leads into the rating and data tables. The majority of the HOBP rating tables are completed. We're working on, there's a lot of factors associated with the earthquake coverage. And so we're putting the final touches on that in this quarter, which our quarter will end about mid-July. So that's the goal, to have the full complement for homeowners available.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions out there. So, well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap up at this point. So, oops, wait a minute. We got one more. Is the onboarding mentioned the same as if I were going to start with forms, interested in obtaining the rating manual?
Sheila, do you want to? It's the same onboarding unit.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with manual rules for rating information or forms and endorsements, or the speed to market tools, correct, Sheila?
Correct. Same onboarding unit, same onboarding team. Absolutely.
Very good. Very good. And onboarding, as Sheila talked about, is something that our members, not all members know that we offer this service, but certainly those who we have onboarded for new products within the last several years have seen some real value from it. We get terrific feedback from the onboarding that we do, and again, these tools that we're discussing today really just further enhance the speed to market that we can provide through onboarding services, combined with the use of these tools to help you as well as your policy admin providers. All right. On that note, let's go ahead and wrap this up. So Jason, Sheila, Jeff, great discussion. And thank you for your engaging presentation today. And thank you to our attendees and all of your questions.